So today, you guys know we're in Corvette World. Standing behind me is my 2017 C7 Corvette Grand Sport. Howdy folks, you on the Seek on the Speed 252 show. Scroll over to the right, click that subscribe button, and join this awesome community. Alrighty guys, my name is Clarence, this is Robert, and my boy Brink of Speed is behind the camera. Gotta give him a little bit of credit. So today, you guys know we're in Corvette World. Standing behind me is my 2017 C7 Corvette Grand Sport. And I'm wondering, should I eventually sell this car to Corvette World? And this is why we're here, talk with my good friend Robert. So Robert, do your thing.
So first off, right off the bat, as you know, Corvette World also buys cars. You know, as I've mentioned many a video, the overwhelming majority of our inventory comes from either trade-ins, people directly selling to us, or wholesales from other dealers. Very rarely do we go to auction. It's primarily people selling to us. Whenever we get a vehicle that a person is potentially looking to sell to us, obviously, first things first, we get the basic information. So right off the bat, get the VIN, get the mileage off the car, do a physical inspection, and we also check its history on it. Obviously, Carfax. One owner car. Is the car clean? You know, what's the mileage on it? And Carfax also has a tool. Now this is very subjective, but they do have a value to it. It's one of many tools that are out there to help do this. Now, the primary tools we use are actually in the back. They look up comparables through what they call MMR, through Manheim, through auctions, also through where they're retailing. And also, of course, we move enough cars through here that we use our own history. Where are they retailing? Where are they selling at? What is the price points that this market is really where the sweet spot is? Then of course, the car itself. What is this car? This is where we go to GM Global. I have a GM Global account just like a Chevy employee. So I'm able to pull the VIN history on it. I'm able to pull the full breakdown of the build on this car. And when we do so, you know, I highlight like key features. You know, it's a 2LT. It's an automatic. It has nav. You know, it has Kalahari interior. This car is Admiral Blue, but clearly it doesn't look Admiral Blue right now. You know, so you know, but you clearly see it in the door jamb there. Then of course comes the obvious, and that would be a full physical and mechanical inspection. So we'll go through the car. We'll check. The biggest things are fairly obvious. Check the undercarriage. Look for evidence of damage, check for paintwork, check for tracking. You know, if a person tracked the car, you usually can tell rubber will be caked up in places. There will also be a lot of impacts in front unless they did a proper clear bra. Of course, the tire treads. You know, with these cars, especially wide body C7s, you want to always check tire tread depth. Now across the whole tire, because these cars are cambered in more aggressively than your average car for performance basis. So therefore you will usually see more wear on the inside portions of the tread than you will see on the outside. So we'll check for that. Obviously check for any codes. We'll look for, you know, physical damage to the rims. As you know, now he has aftermarket wheels, but you know, the wide body C7 tire, you know, rims have a risk of cracking if they hit potholes too hard. So we'll check for that. After that, hand it all to the owner, and that's where he does his work, verifying condition, and he'll punch in the system, look at the comps in the market, and then give me a buy bid. And this is where which we've been saying many a video, our margin from what we buy to what we sell is usually, give or take, within the $3 to $5 grand range. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's less, depending on the circumstance. Also, you can go in a little bit more, but if the car needs work, now we got to put money into it. We've had cars come in, splitters are broken, tires are bald, car may have a check engine light issue we have to address. Some people modify their cars in light ways, but it can be repaired. Like for example, they gut their cats. You know, when I say cats, that's short for catalytic converters. We got to replace those. So you know, so we may get a car and you say, man, you're priced at, you know, $7 grand over what I paid for it, but we had to put $3 or $4 grand into it, you know, to make it right, you know, because that's what we do here at Corvette World. So Clarence, when did you get this car?
Good question. So I bought this car brand new in 2017. At the time, the dealership was named Kerbeck, now they're named Sioka.
Yep.
This is my very first Corvette. Bought it brand new, first owner like you mentioned earlier. And I bought it because I wanted to become a YouTube creator, which is what I am now. And I wanted to create a channel where it was designated to, you know, Corvette enthusiasts and people who love Corvettes, and that's where my love is, and that's where my love will stay for a very long time. You know, one of my favorite things about this car is the wrap. You know, I always wanted to do a wrap like this. My friend Brink of Speed, as you guys know, sent me a picture of a car one time that had a similar wrap to this, and I fell in love with it and immediately was like, I want this done. And so in 2018, I reached out to Inshane Designs, and Inshane decided to say, no, I will not do this wrap for you because one, it is very expensive to do, and two, it is very difficult to do. And so I drove 6 hours back home with my sad puppy face, and then I saw him again 3 months later, showed up again and asked the same exact questions, and he said, man, you're really serious about this thing. And I was like, yeah, I really want to have this done. And he eventually said, you know what, we'll do it. And he did it, and it took him about 2 weeks, and he hasn't done another one since. So that's one of the things I've done to it. I put an aftermarket exhaust on it from Corsa, aftermarket wheels. So the aftermarket wheels are from MRR. They're really nice wheels. I like the brand a lot. And far as the exhaust goes, it is aftermarket as well, and they are also Corsa exhaust, and I love these as well. It makes the car sounds a lot aggressive, and I have a lot of ACS components on it, from the front splitter down to the shark fins, and it's just been a phenomenal car since I've owned it. I haven't had any issues out of other than one thing back in the day, which was a catalytic converter that went bad, but was replaced on a warranty right around 5,000 miles. And haven't had any issues since out of this car, and it's been a phenomenal car thus far, and that's why I'm wondering, should I get rid of this car and sell it to Corvette World?
Now, when we actually talk to most people on the phone when they're selling us a car, I don't need that much history, but we're doing that for the video. No, I'm just being upfront about it, but it is a great history on this car, so I appreciate that. But I will say, they'll usually ask how old is the wrap?
2018.
Okay, 2018, so we're on 5 years now. We're
Yep.
5 years on this wrap. But this is not a clear bra. As you know, with some clear bras, 5 years is that time we start seeing that yellowing discoloration on like white cars and certain deals.
Right.
Now, also, you know, so when we decide whether or not we're gonna keep a wrap on a car that we keep, obviously, first, look at the wrap itself. Is this an appeal to our customer base? We know our customer base. The answer is, looking at this, for me personally, I would say yes, this would definitely appeal to somebody. Most of our regular buyers, probably not, because you know they want stock, they want original, but I do know we have a base here that still would love this wrap, so we would leave it, especially if you had, I would say, if you did have the receipts available for the wrap for the price, I would love to have a copy of that. Obviously, we cut out and delete personal info, customer identity protection laws.
I get it.
You know, I would ask for copies so that we know, hey, he spent $5 grand on this wrap,
right.
You know, and this expensive wrap, and it was done by a reputable shop. Obviously, and Chains is
right.
famous. You know, that way they know who did it when it's been done. That could be, that's marketable. Somebody say, whoa, this was done by such and such, and it belonged to somebody,
right.
That knew what they were doing. Another thing too is, we love stock wheels. Now, this aftermarket wheel looks really good on this car, so that'll be a judgment call whether or not we leave it or not. As you
right.
can tell, you look around showroom, you see a handful of cars like my Stingray over there that
yeah.
has the Z06 replica wheels.
Absolutely.
Stuff like that, heck yeah, stay on the car. These rims, black, whether it be on this wrap or with the original Admiral Blue paint, black wheels look good.
Gotcha.
So we would leave it. But if you have the original wheels, we would like to bid it with the original wheels if you have them.
I do have
because,
those as well.
One, if we need to go back to stock, we can, and or put it in our stock back there,
right.
Either for available for sale in parts, or if we need it for a backup, because again, car comes in with cracked wheels, it's getting harder and harder to get parts.
Correct.
So, modifications. The biggest thing is catalytic converters and tunings. That's the biggest thing, because Texas, like many states, have a state inspection, and catalytic converters being deleted or removed altogether is illegal
Gotcha.
to sell in Texas. So we have to have catalytic cats, at least the primaries or the secondaries. We got to have at least one of the cats have to be fully installed,
right.
and the sensors, you know, obviously, you know, set up right. If the car's been tuned, we need to know how it's been tuned, what it dyno, and what's exactly been done to it.
Right.
Generally, heavily modified cars we will not touch. Very rarely do we take heavily modified cars. The most notable recent one we did decide to keep was that 427 convertible, and it did find a local, very happy home. But generally speaking, if we get a heavily modified trade, trade-in, for example, we'll refer it to another place down the street here called Hot Rides. They usually sell modified cars if it's a trade-in. But if they're just straight selling us, if you got cams and the car is pretty much a monster race car, most of the time we're not going to be interested. The diffuser fins, Corsa exhaust, which is an axle back, I'm assuming.
Right. Yep.
You know, things like that. Yeah, we love. Wraps are hit and miss. Most wraps, you know, we generally like to take them off. But like I said, for one that's done this well by a reputable shop and it's done very classy, in my opinion, I think I could win the owner over on this one. But normally, if the car is wrapped, we're very hit and miss on those. Sometimes we'll just take it. Okay, so starting out, so Clarence calls, he gives us the info. We gave him a sight unseen bid, approximate, based on inspection. So now the car is here, and now we're inspecting it. Obviously, if the car is out of state, it's a little bit different. We'll try to get as much information over as possible, and then do the inspection when the car arrives via truck, if an agreement is reached. All right, so let's just say in this scenario, Clarence came here, he's looking to sell the car, so now I'm inspecting it. First off, right off the bat, I did talk to my manager. One of the concerns with the wraps, you know, because a lot of people like wraps, is not the clear bra, but with the colored wraps is, depending on how it's done and when it's done, there's a risk that if it's taken off, that if there ever was a paint repair done, or if the thing sat in extreme heat, or this wrap has been on this car for like a decade, it could actually damage the paint upon removal. That is the one big concern with certain wraps. Again, clear bra, usually not a problem unless the car had a damage report. For example, if the car had like a damage report and it had a clear bra wrap over where the damage was at, that's a sign of minor concern, and we would like to know who painted it and you know, what was done. So therefore, if that clear bra is ever removed, we don't want it to where the paint's coming off with the clear bra.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's the only concern that really comes up with the wrap. The plus side to wraps is the obvious. Even the colored wraps, they do the same thing just like clear bra wraps. They protect against rock chips. Right. So anything that potentially hit this car, we know underneath the paint's probably immaculate. Right. You know, because so it does. So there's a side benefit. But again, it's just the circumstance of how the wrap was done. I'm assuming you did this only pretty much a few months after you had gotten this car. Right.
The wrap?
Yes.
I got the car in 2017, did a wrap in 2018.
Right, within a year.
Yes.
So, okay, so the car did not live long without a wrap. It's pretty much been wrapped most of the time.
Yeah. So, and garage kept.
So the plus side to that is I can assume that underneath there's probably little to no of any chips or damage.
Correct.
All right. Yeah. Now, obviously, we will check. You know, we'll go through it. We're going to check underneath. The big thing is splitters. Obviously, you got some paint defects here. There's a rock. You know, we check under here. And we look to see if this thing had ever been curbed up, and underneath you'll see the support frames. And right now yours are clean black, which means it hasn't been up on a curb. Believe it or not, we will push on the grill because sometimes these things get hit and they crack. So we'll push on that. Sometimes they do. There is a little bit of separation that does happen sometimes right here. Yours doesn't even seem to have that. So Clarence has also mentioned that, you know, he actually has a new splitter for this car already. So right off the bat, I mean, you know, we knew that if he sold it to us with that extra piece, you know, we would bid that accordingly. And a piece we would remove, we would send that off and have it repainted. We've got a local shop here, repainted carbon flash, and put it back in our stock. Obviously, I mentioned earlier about the tires. We check the tire tread, check the DOT dates on the tires, check the rims for cracks or damage, or, you know, rim rash as we call it. Obviously, we look in the engine bay. We look in here and see if there's any mods. I do see a mod, actually a good one, an AFE cold air intake, so that's a good mod. Other than that, it looks stock, manifold stock. This kind of peeling stuff, not a big deal. It happens. That's normal. We're not going to gig for that. C7s and C8s with 3 LTs, you check the dash. Now, your car garage kept, not an issue. For the cars that are left out in the sun, if 3 LTs, the sun down here in the south bakes it, the Napa leather has a tendency to shrink.
I can see that.
And will pull away. Yep. And that's not unique to Corvettes. That is just the nature of Napa leather.
Yeah.
It's happened to many vehicles. I've seen it on other exotics as well. So this here, of course, being a 2LT, has the Mulan leather dash and door panels, and it looks fabulous. We look at the seat. If there's wear, sometimes, you know, the leather gets pulled out of here from people getting in and out. People put their elbows here when they're getting out of the car, which can cause wrinkles. He's got a minor wrinkle here, but this is not really a concern. It's a used car with 38,000 miles. Obviously, we will start the car, make sure there's no check engine lights. Sounds good. Check notifications. Nothing comes up right away. That's usually a quick check on that. If there is ever any codes, you know, we'll find out. but 38,081 miles. I can tell you right now, I've been in a handful of 38,000 mile cars, and his is very clean for the mileage.
I appreciate it, Robert.
No, I mean that. I mean, the passenger seat doesn't even look like it's been sat in. This stuff right here will clean off the leather, the rub wear, rub darkness here. You see that bleeds off. People always worry about that. This is actually fairly easy to clean off if you know what you're doing. Obviously, we check side skirts, make sure they're not all tore up. Check undercarriage for side damage, because sometimes people curb down here. And so we'll check for that. And of course, trunk area. One thing we know, if a car's been sitting for a while, or if it ever's been jumped, we'll see, you'll see folding wear here. You know, that's just the nature. When you pull this up to get at the battery, it does pull on these carpets, so we could know at least at some point this thing's been open, whether to be tendered or jumped. And of course, the battery itself. Fairly common, but we know at that point, at some point, it's probably been jumped or tendered in that fashion, or that carpet had to stay up for a period of time. Whenever you have mods like diffuser fins, just want to make sure they're tight. Check underneath, make sure there's nothing obvious. With higher mileage cars, 38 is not really higher mileage, it's kind of mid mileage, but you know, once they start getting up there, we will rack the cars, because this is a magnetic ride car. We want to check the shocks. Make sure. Now, when these things really start leaking like a sieve, eventually you'll get a check engine light, let you know, hey, you know, something's wrong, and of course it'll send a code. But we'll check in advance if we see a shock absorber's going out and it's really starting to leak. We'll have to gig on that and say, hey, look, we got to replace a magnetic ride shock, not sheet.
So overall, you think the condition of the cars and
yeah, I mean, overall, your car is very, very good. I mean, you got also some protective measures in place with the wrap itself. You got the ACS rock guards in the front there. Another thing we check, not so much on coupes and convertibles, in the earlier C7 years, you got to watch for cracks in the upper part of the glass here, because what was happening was I don't know who it was, somebody, primarily in 2015, whoever GM was using to supply their glass, they were having stress fractures in the corners.
Gotcha.
So we frequently check, especially in them early years. 17, you didn't really encounter that much.
Right.
So it's primarily 15, 16s.
Gotcha. So overall, based off the things you've seen thus far, this will be a car you guys would purchase?
Yes, I don't see why. Obviously, the owner makes the final call. What I do is I take my packet, my inspection, all that. I hand him all the information. He goes in back, does his thing, and then comes back at me with a bid. Marty does the same thing. So if you call Corvette World looking to sell your car, the info is going to go to Marty. Marty is generally the one that handles the buy bids, working with the owner. If they're tied up, I'll do it. I'll take general information, put together a packet like this, hand it to him to work with the owner. I do not do the bids here. I am not certified to do the bids. I mean, sometimes I'll help people out just using generic tools and stuff that I know a little bit about, because I've been doing this forever and I'm a Corvette guy. But other than that, when it comes to actual buy bids, it has to come directly from the owner.
Gotcha.
Which Marty Herrera, the finance director and manager here, is the one who handles personally.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
But I do the physical part of it. I help out. I just check the vehicle. If I see something of concern where I think it needs to be racked or I need a second opinion, I'll get him involved.
Okay.
But otherwise, I check it out. The only thing I got to make note of is it is a fully wrapped car. Hand him the packet, and then the owner will give me a bid here shortly.
Well,
so,
thanks, man. I appreciate the information.
No problem.
I think you did a thorough job of explaining what someone should do and what they should know when they come to Corvette World considering selling their cars.
When you're ready to sell a car, the biggest thing is VIN number, exact mileage, list of mods, and damage. All right. If you had stuff done under warranty under Chevrolet, I'm going to have a record of this. Like, look, this is a record of everything that had been done at a Chevy dealership here. So I can see at one point, you know, see upholstery, customer concern not duplicated, factory maintenance, replace brakes. You know, I'm going to have a history. If it's done at a Chevy dealership, it should be documented in here. If it's done third party, usually, unless they don't report, I'll have it in the Carfax.
Gotcha.
But the biggest thing is, even if it's not reported, if you've had paint work done, just be upfront, because we do know what to look for when we're checking for paint work.
I can tell.
Okay, you know, we just be honest, be upfront. If it's a minor thing, it may not even hurt your bid, but we need to know what happened. So
gotcha.
Something good, you know, you're driving on the road, some schmuck threw his water bottle, it bounced up and hit and left a scratch in your paint, and you went and touched it up yourself. Just say it. It happened.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because we have guys here that can do paint correction. and buff and detail to make it like it never even happened.
Gotcha.
But it's hard to do that when we don't know. And then we get here and we don't want to be surprised and be like, well, I have to gig you for this, you know?
That's true. Well, I appreciate it, Robert. You provided a lot of great information. I thank you for being featured on the channel today. Thank you for taking the time to go over my C7 Corvette. I really appreciate it. And
Yes.
as you guys know, give that video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment down below, and also go follow my friend Brink of Speed, who's also behind the camera and drove me over here today. And
don't forget, 1 month from this week, we'll be seeing you at Carlisle.
that is true.
Corvette's
That
at
is
Carlisle.
very
Got to
true.
start a hype now.
Awesome. I'll see you guys, like Brink of Speed said, out on the road.